The 22nd tournament arc technically begins in the middle of Season 3 of OG Dragon Ball, but I'm only going to pull out Season 4 here because that's the one that I recently finished. And it also goes through only 3 volumes of the manga here. Now, part of Volume 10 does dedicate itself to the ending portions of the Red Ribbon Army arc, but then we enter into the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament arc, and then the entirety of Volume 11 goes through the 22nd, and part of Volume 12 goes into the 22nd, roughly around here for the 22nd. So, it's probably one of the shortest arcs in this series, if not the shortest arc in this series. Because, well, even though you're looking at 3 here, it's just like the first 2 chapters of Volume 12 and part of Volume 10. So technically, if we're gonna take out the Red Ribbon Army length of this and the King Piccolo arc of 12 and combine the 2 remaining halves of the 22nd, it would be roughly 2 volumes. So maybe it's about the same length as the Pilaf arc. So it's probably short. It may be about that length. I'm not going to exactly count how many chapters it is, but it is pretty short because the bulk of Season 4 is dedicated to King Piccolo. Although King Piccolo finishes for the most part at the end of Season 4. So we're going to talk about King Piccolo showing this volume as well in the next installment. Today, we're going to be talking mostly about the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament. In the 22nd, the fighting gets good. Because prior to this, in the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament, it was mostly for gags and jokes. Even during the final match of Goku versus Jackie Chun, they were just basically showing wacky techniques and funny hijinks and one-upping each other back and forth. Roshi was being surprised by Goku's adaptability, and Goku was being surprised at Jackie Chun being very difficult to put down. It's very, in a good way, I like it. I do like the wacky jokes and the hijinks of the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament, and this one, the 22nd, has the best fighting. But ironically, I think the best fight in the 22nd would have to be Tien versus Yamcha. Not in the manga, though, in the anime. Because this is the anime breakdown. I'm just pulling out the manga because I have all of the manga and I could show off parts of the manga and I like to do that and all that, whatever. But in the anime, they usually have montages when they do an insert song. When an insert song plays, they animate it like it's a music video. So the fight of Tien versus Yamcha plays to the Wolf Hurricane song, sung by Yamcha's voice actor, which is pretty cool, but karaoke is pretty popular in Japan. A lot of people sing and all that stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that many voice actors for the Dragon Ball team actually sing their own character insert songs and image songs and all of that stuff. And Masako Nozawa sings the 2 Gohan songs in Dead Zone and World's Strongest. So it's not surprising at all to me, but it's a very good bop. It's a very good song. And does it play during the English version? Kind of. But yet again, they have voices and everything talking over the actual song playing, so you can't really hear it. If you want to hear the song, you have to switch to the Japanese language with Japanese subtitles. The Japanese subtitles will show the lyrics to the song at the top of the screen. And normally it's at the bottom of the screen. When they sing song lyrics, it's at the top of the screen. And it plays like a music video. It's animated like a music video. It is very good to listen. It's very satisfying to listen and watch this fight because it's probably one of the best looking fights, the best animated fights in this entire arc. Now, most fights in this arc are good, though. Krillin versus Chaozu. This is Chaozu's first and pretty much only fight, and I do like it. I do like Chaozu's introductory character, and I'm very disappointed as to what happened to his character. And whereas my rant on Tien and Yamcha can be saved for now because they still get to do stuff into the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, Chaozu is very much like Oolong here. Oolong was very good in the Pilaf arc. He was one of my favorite characters. He was a little... I can't say that word in the first 5 minutes here. But he was a swine. And he wasn't a good person, but he wasn't King Piccolo levels of bad either. But I liked his dynamic. He was a foil to Bulma in many ways, and I love the dynamic with him. They're very funny to watch. He was a very good character. However, he gets dropped immediately by the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament arc, and he never recovers. His character never recovers. The only time we get to see Oolong anymore is in filler in the anime, because the manga has already dropped him. They did the manga to show him. He does have speaking lines and panels here and there, but he will never really do anything after the Pilaf arc. He's done. And this is the same thing for Chaozu. While Chaozu shows up for the King Piccolo arc and he shows up for the Saiyan arc, he only shows up to die. In the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament arc, he shows up and he actually gets to show off techniques. He gets to show off his moveset. The bulk of his moveset that we see in video games comes from this fight. Technically, Chaozu should be an OG Dragon Ball character, not a Z character, if you ask me. Because his moveset he doesn't fight in the Z anime. He doesn't. He fights in OG Dragon Ball. This is his one and only fight, and I think it's very satisfying to watch. His personality as an antagonist, he's not necessarily a villain, but he is an antagonist, is very, very satisfying to watch. He is a little troll. He is a troll, like internet troll type of thing. He is very much a troll trying to irritate Krillin and get him to make mistakes so that Chaozu could beat him up. But he's also dumb as a rock. He can't do math. He has to use his fingers to count as basic addition. Krillin says, what is 2 plus 6? And he has to go up his hands as he goes like 2, 1, 6, and then Krillin beats him while Chaozu's holding up his hands. Because when he uses his telekinesis to freeze Krillin in place, he has to hold his hands out like this. And Krillin notices that, and he realizes that Chaozu counts with his hands, so he keeps giving him math questions. So Chaozu has to count with his hands, but that breaks the telekinesis on Krillin, and Krillin gets to get the win because of that stupid loophole. It is very funny and very satisfying to watch, but it also makes Chaozu a very interesting character. He's dumb as a rock, but he has a very interesting moveset. But the problem is, with Toriyama's writing, there's nowhere for Chaozu to go after this. He has no room to grow. He's not necessarily a gifted fighter like Tien. He's not necessarily going to stay a villain, so once he reforms with Tien, he has no character. I could write some movesets and think of some movesets for Chaozu to learn in the future arcs. I could think of some things for him to do, but I'm not the writer. I'm the one looking on after everything has been written, and I can use what's been written to enhance the characters that have been discarded, but the seat of your pants writing when he's trying to think about Chaozu and trying to think what he's doing because he has to come up with the next chapter for the next week because it's a weekly manga that he's working on. He's very rushed and all this stuff. He doesn't have time to think about Chaozu. He has no time to think about Chaozu. There's nothing for Chaozu to do other than to die. So after the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament, this is it for his character. He has no personality after this. Tien will have some things to do, especially in the next arc. He has a very interesting amount of things to do in the next arc. And especially in the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament, Tien's introduction is one of the better introductions for characters in OG Dragon Ball. There is a rival martial arts school, and of course that has to be the next thing that is introduced here, because we can't just have a repeat of the 21st, we have to up the stakes. And we learn that Zuru Sennin, the Crane Hermit, is the older brother of Tao Pai Pai, the character that Goku inadvertently kills in the Red Ribbon Army arc. So this is not just a revenge arc For Tao Pai Pai, this is also a rival martial arts school arc with Tien and Chaozu versus Yamcha and Krillin, and then eventually ends in Tien versus Goku. Because it's Tien who is the master. He's better than Tao in every way, shape, and form, obviously. And he's already surpassed the Crane Hermit. He's already surpassed Azuru Senin. So when Tien faces off against Goku, Tien is the milestone that replaces Jackie Chun. And I really like how the English version of the anime does build on Tien's character. I don't know if the English version knew where Tien was going to go. I don't know if they watched every episode of OG Dragon Ball when they were dubbing it over, or they were doing it episode by episode, because unlike Z, they got the whole thing at the start. They got the whole show, and they did it very, very, very quickly, one after the other. But in the English versions of this, when they're dubbing over this stuff, I didn't check the entirety of the Japanese subtitle version, so I don't know what they were saying in the Japanese version. But in the English version, when Jackie Chun / Roshi goes up against Tien, he does quit in the middle of the fight, like he does in the manga, and it's a very... They do a lot of extensions there. I'm going to talk about that. But the way Roshi builds Tien up almost feels like he's building Tien up to be his replacement. Roshi realizes that the next generation of fighters aren't going to slack off, but ironically they do. Yamcha slacks off. Tien gets discarded. Chaozu slacks off. Yajirobe, we're going to talk about him next time, but he's always been a slacker, but we'll talk about him in the King Piccolo arc. But at the time, Tien, Yamcha, Krillin, Goku, they're all very powerful. They're all closing in, and if not, have already surpassed him. Yamcha and Krillin have not surpassed him yet, but Tien and Goku have. And Roshi acknowledges this, and he quits gracefully. This is very much a swan song for his character, but he will have some more things to do in the next arc before he is discarded entirely. At least until Super brings him back arbitrarily. I don't really agree with bringing him back like that. I think it's kind of an insult to the character, if you ask me. He should have stayed out of fighting after this. What else do I have to talk about here? Yamcha. Yamcha is very, very good here. It almost looks like Yamcha is superior to Krillin here. He learns the Kamehameha first, and he fires it at Tien. The Kamehameha just doesn't work on Tien because he's just extremely gifted. He learns techniques immediately just by looking at them. Just by watching it one time, he will be able to learn the technique. He's very much a learner like Goku is. That's how he was introduced. Tien is full of techniques, and Roshi acknowledges that Tien could pretty much learn everything that Roshi's ever learned. Lightning Surprise, Hypnosis, everything that Roshi has ever learned, Tien is capable of mimicking immediately. And that's how gifted of a fighter Tien was introduced as. And that's why Roshi gravitated to him. But Yamcha couldn't beat Tien. He sadly couldn't do it, but the montage makes it look like they were pretty even. It does. The montage at the start of the fight, when Wolf Hurricane plays, it is the best fight in the entire tournament arc, because it's a montage. It was made to be a 2 to 3 minute fighting sequence, non-stop combat with non-stop fighting animation. It was just very, very satisfying to watch. But Tien does beat him pretty easily. And then Tien versus Goku. He has his heel face turned in the middle of the fight. Tien has pride, the pride of the martial artist. He wants to test his skills and beat Goku with his own strength. He does not want Tsuru Senin and Chaozu helping him illegally in the tournament match. So that is a very honorable thing with Tien. And Goku does narrowly defeat Tien. Tien keeps up with techniques. He doesn't keep up with raw strength. Tien has techniques and all sorts of fighting styles and moves to catch Goku off guard, but Goku shows off that you can't use the same technique twice on him because he will adapt. He's an extremely adaptable fighter. It does show a lot of great things with these two characters and builds them up, and I absolutely loved how the crowd rushed out of the stage to find these two characters lying on the street after they fell from the finale, and they picked them both up like they're rock stars, and it was very good. It was a very good feeling for Tien to see how this is how you do it when you're not fighting to be a bad guy, and how this is what it's like to be adored for real. It was very satisfying to watch. And unlike the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament, they do separate this arc into a lot of extra filler segments, if you will, because this is probably one of the shorter tournament arcs. I don't know if the 23rd is shorter than this, because the fight with Goku and Piccolo takes up almost an entire one of these. So the rest of the tournament does take place. Well, it's about three of these as well. Volumes 14, 15, and 16 comprise the 23rd. And volumes 12, 13, and part of 14 comprise King Piccolo. So I would say they're roughly around the same length, maybe. It's the Red Ribbon Army arc that was the longest in the whole span. When the anime was doing filler for the 22nd, though, they did something that was very satisfying. At the end of the accident where Tien breaks Yamcha's leg, they stop for the day, and the characters get to breathe for a little bit. They all go to the hospital to look in on Yamcha. We constantly cut back to the hospital to see Yamcha. A nurse gives him a radio so he can listen in on the tournament, so he can see how his friends are doing in the tournament, see how far along Goku's getting, see Krillin get to the next round, see Jackie Chun get to the next round. And then he does run out of the hospital and makes it for Goku versus Tien. He's there in the sidelines. In the manga, that doesn't happen. Nobody goes to watch the 22nd except for Oolong, basically. Oolong's like one of the only ones that stayed behind. Bulma at launch, they go to the hospital and they're not seen for the rest of this entire arc. But they come back the next day to watch the rest of the tournament, so they do have a lot to do there. And I like that the anime changed that up a little bit. It does make it that the anime version of the 22nd is far superior to the manga version of the 22nd, mainly for those types of small changes. I like that they make it a sort of festival. There's like all sorts of stands outside of the tournament. After you get to watch a fight, you can go out to the stands, kind of like a theme park. There's a bunch of vendors. There's also like a ring toss challenge, apple grabbing with your mouth challenge. There's a lot of games that you can play. They treat it as a big event, and I loved that. I was blown away by all of the filler in this bit. I had never seen the 22nd outside of clips of the fighting in the anime format before. I read the manga tons of times, but this is the first time actually watching the 22nd through and through from start to finish, and I was very satisfied with what I had seen. So I can honestly say for sure that the 22nd is better than the 21st anime-wise for me. The only thing that I would say the 21st has over the bulk of the 22nd is that Goku versus Jackie Chun Mezase Tenkaichi montage fight. It's on the same level as Tien versus Yamcha with Wolf Hurricane. But I think Goku versus Jackie Chun is one of the best fights of all three tournament arcs, so it's very hard to top that. But for the bulk of it, I do like what the 22nd does. It does have the best fighting. Although it's very hard to top Goku versus Piccolo too, but we'll get to that. This has most of the fights are very satisfying. Goku versus Pamput gets some blown filler stuff. It's okay. I don't really care for it, but it's very okay. Pamput is blown up to be like a Mr. Satan type of character, but Pamput's he's just the prototype Mr. Satan. Man-Wolf is a funny joke because we need to have some gags in this, because otherwise it's mostly seriousness. Krillin versus Chaozu is good. Tien versus Yamcha is very good. Tien versus Jackie Chun is very good. Goku versus Krillin is very good. Goku versus Tien is very good. Whereas when you look at the 21st, Goku versus Jackie Chun is very good, and the rest isn't as good. Jackie Chun versus Krillin is pretty good, where he takes on a mentorship role, teaches Krillin. There's a couple gags with the super speed movement things. But other than that, there's not too much to really latch onto. It's very entertaining. I really like it, but the 20 seconds just blows it out of the water for me. So it does usurp the 21st. So anime-wise, the Pilaf is still in first place, followed by the Red Ribbon Army arc, followed by the 22nd, followed by the 21st. In the manga format, we have the Red Ribbon Army arc, followed by the Pilaf arc, followed by the 22nd, followed by the 21st. So it's still the same, and I still hold by that it's mainly nostalgia, my love for the original version of the Pilaf saga that happened with that I picked up on tape. I watched them throughout the childhood many times. I love the Pilaf arc on anime version. It's not as good reading it as watching it, so that's why the Red Ribbon Army arc is superior, because the anime version is a little bit bloated, does feel a little bit long, but it's still very entertaining. It's just not as good as the Pilaf arc to me. So that's why they're still flipped in the manga anime format, but we're getting there. We'll see where the King Piccolo arc holds up. We'll see where that stands and where it takes the Tien character, where Yamcha character goes. But of course, we end the 22nd on Krillin's death, and that immediately segues into King Piccolo. So that's something. So don't expect Krillin to do anything in the next arc because he's dead.